Good day everyone, so for today's video, we're going to talk about the 6 different categories of synovial joints. So synovial joints are further classified into 6 different categories on the basis of shape and structure of the joints. The shape of the joints affects the type of movement permitted by the joints. So these joints can be described as planar, hinge, pivot, condyloid, saddle, or ball and socket joints. So first, let's talk about the planar joints. So the planar joints have bones with articulating surfaces that are flat or slightly curved faces. These joints allow for gliding movement, and so the joints are sometimes referred to as gliding joints. The range of motion is limited in these joints and does not involve rotation. Planar joints are found in the carpal bones in the hand and in the tarsal bones of the foot, as well as between the vertebrae. The joints of the carpal bones in the wrist is an example of the planar joints. So I have here example of planar joints. So it can move back and forth and side to side. So the next is the hinge joints. In hinge joints, the slightly rounded end of the bone fits in the slightly hollow end of the other bone. In this way, one bone moves while the other remains stationary, like the hinge of a door. The elbow is an example of a hinge joint. The knee is sometimes classified as a modified hinge joint. So I have here example of hinge joints. The other one can move while the other is still stationary. So now, let's talk about the pivot joints. So the pivot joints consist of round end of the bone fitting into a ring formed by other bone. The structure allows rotational movement as the rounded bone moves around its own axis. An example of a pivot joint is the joints of the first and second vertebrae of the neck that allows the head to move back and forth. The joints of the wrist that allows the palm on the hand to be turned up and down is also a pivot joint. So I have here an example of a pivot joint. So let us just imagine that this little thing here is an vertebrae. So the next one is the condyloid joints. Condyloid joints consist of an oval-shaped end of the bone fitting in a similarly oval-shaped hollow of another bone. This is also sometimes called an ellipsoidal joints. This type of joints allow angular movement along two axes as seen in the joints of the wrist and finger, which can move both sides up and down and side to side. So what I have here is an example of condyloid joints. So now, let's talk about the saddle joints. Saddle joints are so named because of end of each bone resemble a saddle, with concave and convex portion that fits together. Saddle joints allow angular movement similarly to condyloid joints but with a greater range of motion. An example of saddle joint is a thumb joint, which can move back and forth and up and down, but can move freely than the wrist or finger. So what I have here is an example of a saddle joint. So the last one is the ball and socket joints. Ball and socket joints possess a round ball-like end of one bone fitting into a cup like a socket of another bone. This organization allows the greater range of motion, as well as movement types are possible in all directions. Example of ball and socket joints are the shoulder and the hip joint. So what I have here is an example of a ball and socket joint. So it can move freely by the use of a ball. So yeah, That is an example of a ball and socket joints.